welcome everyone. This is the Introduction to Federal Acquisition Processes, Strategies, and Resources. And Harry, if you can go to the next slide. So this seminar is sponsored by the Federal Leadership and Professional Development Seminar Series, the Performance Improvement Council, and the GSA Office of Shared Solutions and Performance Improvement. And there's more information about all of these groups in the slides, but we're going to breeze past them. So if Harry, if you can take us to the speaker list. So you all have the slides, you'll see these slides, you can breeze through them at your own time. Actually, if you can go back to the first poll, just to like catch everybody, because I know people are still logging in. So real quick poll, because I'm so grateful you're all here today. Really appreciate the patience. We're going to do a quick poll and we're going to jump in. Harry, if you can start this poll. So from which region are you all coming from today? Where are you working? Northeast, South, West. So if you use the poll feature, you can click in that box. So I see we've got folks from the West, Midwest, South, and Northeast, and even international. Wonderful. Welcome all today. I'm just going to close out this poll to the slide with the speakers. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I just want to put a huge welcome out to our speakers today. We have Joanie Newhart, the Associate Administrator for Acquisition Workforce Programs coming from OMB, Carolyn Carbone, the Director of Procurement Service C Technology Acquisition Center at the Department of Veterans Affairs, David Jablonski, Customer Engagement Lead at the Procurement Innovation Lab and Homeland Security, and Christine Heibeck, the Learning and Development Program Manager. Thank you all so much for coming today. You can go ahead and progress the slides, and I'm going to hand it over to Joanie.
Thank you, Kim. I'm very delighted to be here today. Thank you all for joining us. We love to talk about acquisition. So we have a stellar lineup of speakers to just tell you more about it, to make your life easier once you understand more about acquisition. So we'll just jump right in. We have a little bit less time, so we'll account for that. But today we're going to cover just an overview of acquisition. We're going to talk about the process, and the process is pretty much the same no matter where you are, no matter what agency. We're going to talk about innovation strategy. So you may think that it's, you have to follow these guidelines. It's very strict. It's not. We do have guidelines, guide rails, but we do have creative things that we can do. And that's really what makes the job fun. And we all love that. And then finally, we'll wrap up with some resources. And along the way, feel free to use the chat. I personally can't see the chat, but Kim's going to be monitoring it. And I think the other panelists see it as well. So let's jump right into the overview. Oh, so we have a poll. Have you participated in a federal acquisition? And then what's the role that you've played? Keep it open for just a few seconds. So can we see the results of the poll? Oh, yay. Only 2% put not sure. That's great. So many of you have, that's wonderful. And just so you know, set the stage, this is basics of acquisition. So we're not getting into a lot of details here. COR is wonderful, PM, CO. Oh, let me scroll down a second. Mostly COR, few attorneys, policy, small business. Great. Well, welcome everybody. There's a place for all of you here. We're very glad to have you. So let's get going with the overview, Harry, if you don't mind. Okay, so just setting the stage. I love these statistics because I think a lot of people don't understand how widespread, how big federal acquisition is. It's great. So we are the world's largest buyer of goods and services. The contract spend has increased recently from 2018. We had $556 billion. And in 2023, we have $759 billion in spend. That's a lot of money, right? So it makes it very important that we do this right. So we have more than $4 million of contracts awarded by nearly 40,000 contracting officers in more than 3,000 buying offices. So they're spread all over the country, all over the world, and lots of contracting folks to help you get what you need. Just a little factoid: top agencies, Department of Defense, no big surprise, VA, Energy, HHS, and GSA. So moving right along. So yes, so what does this look like today? So it's very complicated for these contracting folks because there's a lot that they have to pay attention to. The administration uses contracting as a catalyst to support very critical public priorities such as equity, stewardship, cybersecurity, you name it, and there's an acquisition piece to it. And that means it has to be on the radar of the contracting folks. So they have to be on top of things and understand where they fit into all of these priorities. It's quite a challenging job for them. So be nice to them, your contracting officer. Across the federal government, we've had category management for about 10 years now. And basically what that is if you need to buy a laptop, like you don't have to go figure out where to buy this laptop, what you need. There's common contracts with common goods so that we can get better pricing, we can get faster procurements, and we've saved a ton of money doing this. It makes perfect sense. You don't want every single person going out and buying a laptop. It makes absolutely no sense on this scale. So it's fantastic. Procurement innovation, you're going to hear more about that as we progress through the slides. Also, Chris will share a bit about our certification programs, just so you know that your contracting professionals are skilled and trained. And I believe that's the end of my part, Harry. What's the next slide? Okay, so I'm going to turn it over. You're in for a treat. Carolyn is here from the VA Technology Acquisition Center, and I will turn it over to you, Carolyn.
Thanks, Joanie.
Thank you so much, Joanie. And Carolyn, great. When you get started, I just want to make sure everyone can see Carolyn. Just a note for her video to be pinned. Great. I see that being spotlighted. Thank you so much. Okay. Thanks so much. We're ready for you.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to walk you through the federal acquisition process. And as Joanie shared, it's not really different depending on what agency you work for. The general overall process is the same. So we're just going to highlight some key points within the process. So go to the next slide. All right, I normally don't include such a busy slide in a presentation, but I really like this slide because I think it's a great takeaway slide. It's one that we use in our customer training sessions that we do at the Technology Acquisition Center. And this really kind of defines for you high level the 6 different phases of an acquisition process. So we have requirements definition, pre-solicitation and planning, solicitation, evaluation, award, and post-award. And I think the most important takeaway from this slide is that you as the customer, whether you're a PM, a core, if you're an attorney, however, whatever role you play a role in each phase, and you're critical to the success of the acquisition and getting us to not only award, but also then successfully managing the post-award of the awarded contract and making sure that, you know, we can reach the desired outcome of the contract. So I think that this is a great slide to maybe print out and kind of leave on your desk, hang up on the wall. But, you know, if you're working with a contracting team, you know, you'll kind of know what your role is in each of these phases. And one thing I like to share with my customers is that we know that this isn't your day job and that acquisition kind of takes you away from the responsibilities that you may have day to day, you know, but the acquisition process is an important one. It's how we get our end users, you know, the tools, the supplies, the services that they need to do their job, or in the case of my agency, VA, for veterans, you know, and their families to have what they need. So we'll go to the next slide. All right, so this just delves into a little more about the requirements definition. So we might have an integrated product team. So in my agency and a lot of agencies, we use these for more complex, higher dollar value items. But regardless, you would be a part of that team if there was one. You may have local requirements, you know, for you to set up an IPT. You might need an IPT waiver. But if you do have an IPT, you would be a part of it. We have our acquisition requirements package, which we refer to as AHRQ development. So that's where you put together all the little pieces of the acquisition package as a whole. So you'll develop your independent government cost estimate. You'll provide us with your funding document, your performance work statement. What are we going to buy? Maybe you're going to have a product description because you're just buying hardware or software, and there might not be any services involved. The next one is market research, and this is something I'm going to touch on a lot in this presentation because I'm sure if you've worked with a contracting office before, you've heard us preach market research, market research, market research. It needs to be done early and often. And you play a critical role in the process of market research. And the way we do market research a lot of times are issuing requests for information or sources sought notices. We can ask for rough orders of magnitude. Sometimes if we're, a little bit unsure of what something is going to cost us, we might ask the vendors within their responses to our market research to give us a rough order of magnitude. And this can often help to inform our independent government cost estimates. It can help us make decisions on the types of requirements that we want to include within our performance work statement, statement of work or product description. And then for the more higher complexity jobs, we can have industry days, one-on-one technical interchange, and then we can also include site visits if they're warranted. So we could go to the next slide. We'll dive in a little bit. Okay, so this is the pre-solicitation planning. So when an acquisition is assigned, normally we'll have to work together to come up with some milestone forecasting. When is it needed? Do you have something that might be expiring? Is this a new start? Is there some kind of policy driving when this award has to be made? So that's really a discussion to have on day one, day two, within those first 24 to 48 hours of an acquisition package being assigned to your contracting team. They'll hopefully be getting in touch with you and you'll kind of put your heads together and work on some milestone forecasting. And I always think that communication plays a very key role, and it's one of the most important things when we're working on an acquisition. We want to make sure that we're all informed and we're all working towards the same timeline. So milestone forecasting is an important part of that. Market research, again, we're going to dive into that a little bit more in the next couple of slides. Acquisition strategy. So the FAR determines that the contracting officer is responsible for setting the acquisition strategy, but we can't do that without your help. And the way that we rely on you to do that is we need to know your knowledge of the market, your knowledge of what you're buying. Are there specific limitation in terms of, what you're buying? Who sells it to the government? I know we buy information technology where I work, and we have some vendors who, such as Microsoft, for example, who do not sell their products directly to the government. So we know that when we have a big Microsoft purchase, that we're going to have to look into who they're reselling through to the government these days in order to determine where we're going to go out and purchase that software. The AHRQ refinement. So you'll assist us in if we have an evaluation plan, if it's going to be a best value solicitation. So you're going to help us come up with discriminators, designate a technical advisor. So you're going to really make up that evaluation team for when proposals do come in. And you want to make sure that you have a lot of input into the plan itself, so that, when we're determining how we're going to evaluate somebody in terms of their technical performance, that, you're aware and you have input into that, because we rely on your technical knowledge to really be able to do that. Really understanding, are there any information security or privacy issues? Being in the IT buying world, we are very familiar with this. There's a lot of regulations, laws around information and security and privacy issues. And then within VA, we have a special requirement for socioeconomic approval. So we're held a little bit beyond what FAR 19 requires in terms of the 2 or more set aside rule. We have some more legislation, it's known as Kingdomware, the Vets First contracting program, where we're required to set aside actions if we have service disabled veteran-owned businesses or veteran-owned small businesses that can do the work. So you may or may not within your agency have a level of socioeconomic approval, but I did leave it on there just in case it was applicable to you. And then you might have to synopsize, depending on how you're going to buy your services or products. you know, you might have to synopsize the effort out on SAM.gov on contracting opportunities prior to issuance of the solicitation. But you may be able to, and your contracting officer would be able to help you with this. You might be able to do a combined solicitation synopsis, which would, you know, help streamline the process as well. We'll go to the next slide. All right, market research. So what does market research mean? Market research is just collecting and analyzing information about the capabilities within the market to satisfy the agency needs. And market research is required by the Federal Acquisition Regulation FAR at Part 10. And I cannot stress how important it is. I know my customers probably get tired of me talking about market research and its importance, but it really is. And I'll share in a little bit, you know, just some experiences I've had where market research wasn't done the way it should have been done prior to issuance of the solicitation, and kind of where we ended up because of that. So we could go to the next slide. All right, so let's just do a poll real quick. Have you ever performed market research? Looks like from the chat, mostly everybody has, so that's an excellent answer. Okay, so with the poll, we see 63% to 37% yes and then no. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so like I said earlier, market research is performed on an ongoing basis. It should be performed often throughout the acquisition process. So it really needs to start even before you've started developing your requirements documents. So really, before you're even thinking about putting together that acquisitions requirements package that you're going to submit to contracting for solicitation, we really need you to kind of be doing that market research. And market research doesn't have to be issued formally, like in an RFI, like we would normally do. What I would say is that calling up vendors, talking to them, reading white papers, reviewing web pages, reviewing materials from vendors. There really are no hard and fast rules. Acquisition is governed by a lot of rules, a lot of regulation. But when we're in the market research phase, there really aren't that many rules, to be honest. You know, you still have to treat everybody fairly, but you can kind of cast a wide net, conduct market research any way that you know how to. So again, calling up the vendors, reviewing their websites, reviewing white papers. You know, we can even have them come in and do demos for you if you kind of want to explore, touch and feel what's kind of out there. And then a lot of times we do market research prior to issuing the solicitation as well. So I like to think of the market research that you do during the development of the requirements, kind of narrows down the focus of what it is you want to buy. And then the market research that we do prior to issuing the solicitation really kind of tells us how and where we're going to buy it. So it helps us to understand how we're going to set that acquisition strategy. Okay, so this is, the source of this chart is actually from a 2014 GAO report to the Subcommittee on Financial and Contracting Oversight for the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs for the US Senate. So you can see that the market research process is even scrutinized in DC and by, you know, our congressmen, and it's a super important topic. But all, you know, I want to kind of take away from this is that the acquisition planning phase is long, and the market research applies to all phases, not only within that acquisition planning phase, but then also in the pre-award phase. And it also comes into play in the post-award phase. So you can see that that market research is kind of everlasting throughout all of our phases of the acquisition process. So I just thought that this was a nice chart and highlighted how important it was and how it impacts each phase of the acquisition.
Carolyn, we had one question from the
Sure.
From the attendees. At what point does IT get involved to ensure that the product isn't a security risk? And they noted that they had an issue once with going kind of far and then realizing there was an issue with security compliance later in the process. And so if you had any guidance on at what point does IT usually get involved to ensure that the product isn't a security risk?
Yeah, so I guess you would have to rely on, we have information security officers, and those are the people that really kind of help us sort through that. But I just saw the comment that it should be at the beginning, and it absolutely should. As technical SMEs, we rely on those folks to kind of have an understanding of the security and the environment in which the product would be operating in. I know at my agency, we have something called a technical reference manual, and we actually have a list of all approved technologies that can be launched in our environment. And if it's not on there, then we can get it added, but we'd have to make sure that it was something that could be added into the environment. So yes, that should definitely be part of your market research in your planning phase, really almost before you even come to the procurement office. We can further kind of peel back the onion when we do the RFI prior to solicitation, but we kind of need to know that the product that you're buying is something that the agency is able to use. Right, you may need a FedRAMP certification. I'm just seeing some comments in the chat. So
there was one other question. How is market research used in the post-award process?
So in the post-award process, so sometimes, as it shares on the chart, some market research can be conducted before awarding task or delivery orders under an existing contract in certain circumstances. So you're also supposed to do market research before you're exercising options. You're supposed to still make sure you're getting the best deal. And I can't say that, we always do that to the letter of the law in terms of the option exercises, but I can share that even in post-award, you should be reviewing the market. You should still be aware of what's out there, because maybe it's not in our best interest to exercise the option period. So we really just need to really have that constant awareness of what's out there in the market. So that's kind of how it plays into post-award. It's kind of a never-ending process. Who conducts market research? Everyone, basically. Program managers, cores, business owners, tech leads, end users, contracting officers, and of course, that should include, one of those categories should include you all on the phone. So you just want to make sure that that everybody knows that they have a role to play when it comes to the market research. So these are just some market research techniques. You can, like I talked about before, they're all listed there. We'll go to the next slide. I know we're short on time, so I'll swiftly move through these. These are some of the things that your market research could tell you. Your capable sources, are there commercially available services or products? What's the current market price for those? Terms and conditions. And then a lot of times we'll use market research to see if we have to modify anything within our particular requirements that we've issued. We might be trying to solicit for something that's going end of life, and there might be something that's replaced it, or there might not be any more maintenance for that. So we might have to look into just replacing what we already own and then buying a maintenance package. So it can tell you a lot of things. So it's super important. Okay, just quickly, this is market research in a GAO case. So basically, in this case, the agency's decision for how they were going to solicit this requirement was actually reversed because there were insufficient efforts to ascertain small business capability. And just on that same topic, I recently worked on a package where really more robust market research could have been done really in that pre-planning stage before it actually came to the contracting shop. And the ultimate, we weren't protested or anything when we solicited. However, we did end up having to cancel the solicitation and pull it back. And now we're working to re-solicit it after additional market research had been done. So it just goes to show you, how important it is, because if it's not done properly, it can really eat up a lot of valuable time. And I know market research takes time. but it's worth taking the time to do it when you have the time versus when you do not. Okay, this is the solicitation phase. So we'll just, quickly go through these. So there's the solicitation development. There's requests for quotes, requests for proposal, depending on the level of complexity of the requirement, what you're buying, how much information you'll need. The COCS release it to industry. There might be amendments to the solicitation. We'll need your help, usually in answering any Q&A that might come in from industry, and if there's any updates to the requirements that need to be done. If we get a protest, then we'll need your input, to help the CO and OGC put together their response to a vendor's protest. Pre-proposal conferences, not generally used, but they're a possibility. And then we at our agency offer a technical evaluation training. So this is just when right before something's going to, a solicitation is going to close, we'll get together with the tech board and go over, kind of our process for evaluating the proposals when they come in. Okay, have you ever participated in a technical evaluation of a proposal? That's 60-40 split there. All right, during the evaluation phase, there'll be a technical evaluation done by the customer team. Then the acquisition folks will review what the contractors have submitted to ensure that it aligns with the terms and conditions of other than the technical factor. They'll make sure it aligns with the font, the page limit, the margins, all the little nitty-gritty details to make sure that it's conforming. There'll be a cost price evaluation. There may be negotiations or discussions, which would be led by the contracting officer, but then we could reach back to the customer team to help us reevaluate if that's necessary. And then once all of the reports are compiled, the contracting officer will inform the source selection authority, whether those negotiations or discussions are needed, and those will be held as applicable. And then we'll review any exclusions in the system for award management. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, and then the award phase, there will be the selection process. So the selection official would select the awardee, and in a best value process, we would rely on your reports, your technical reports, and then also the past performance, the price, and any other factors that might have been evaluated, and make that decision in accordance with the basis for award. Responsibility determination, we'll make the award. There'll be a contract distribution, and then the congressional notification will be done for anything over $4 million. And then these are just some of the post-award phase activities. So these next two slides, I'm not really going to go through. These are just more takeaway slides. So this is just really to help you, take back to your desk, make sure you these are kind of the best practices in terms of submitting a package that will be as close to ready to solicit as possible. So you can kind of go over those. And again, these are just some of the mistakes that we see. Really, I would say just ensure consistency throughout the documents that you're submitting. Make sure that, your IGCE aligns with the performance work statement and the other supporting documents, because that can save a lot of time as well.
Hello, everyone. Very excited to be here. My name is David Jablonski. I'm a procurement innovation coach with the DHS Procurement Innovation Lab. And today we're going to talk about procurement innovation. You're going to learn about what our team does, what procurement innovation is. You're going to hear an awesome story from a team at DHS, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and hearing what they did innovation-wise to streamline their procurement to get the best outcome for their mission, and also to do it very efficiently as well. You also hear about some innovation resources for you all that you can use and take home with you today. And if you need any help, you can always reach out to our team at the DHS PIL, and we'll provide some great resources for you as well, so you can get a hold of your acquisition innovation support at your agency. So let's go to the next slide so we can learn a little bit about the DHS PIL and how we're formatted or how we're structured within the DHS ecosystem. So within the DHS organization, You can see on the left-hand side here, this is all of DHS. On the left-hand side, we have headquarters functions, and you see here a big circle with our PIL logo pointing towards the Chief Procurement Officer. And that's where we're located, right in headquarters with the DHS Chief Procurement Officer. And all the components on the right-hand side of the page there, FEMA, TSA, CBP, some of these you're probably aware of as well. Those are ones that we're all supporting and coaching on a day-to-day basis if they need assistance with procurement innovation. So let's go to the next slide here. And let's zoom back. Let's hop in our time machines and go back to 2015 when the PIL was founded. Let's talk about why we were founded a little bit. So back in 2015, we did a survey of the DHS acquisition workforce, and we found that over 76% of the workforce were not innovating or trying anything new as part of the procurement process due to fear and cultural resistance. And as you can see here, these are the guiding principles of FAR 1.102, which is a guide for all procurement professionals out there, cores, anyone interacting with the procurement process. And as you can see at the top here, some of these highlights, the team should feel empowered to take personal initiative, to be innovative. There you go, innovation right there in the FAR. And going from one of risk avoidance, one towards more of risk management, so that everyone can use some professional judgment as they're going through the process. Now, here's a nice, important highlight at the bottom here. Rather, absence of direction should be interpreted as permitting the team to innovate and use sound business judgment. So that's big. So for all of you out there, if the FAR is silent on using a certain technique or doing certain things a certain way, then you should use it as an opportunity where you can innovate and use sound business judgment. There's a lot of practices that we teach that go just off of that, because some things that we teach as procurement innovation to streamline processes are not actually in the FAR itself. And so you can utilize those things and take it to your advantage. Let's go to the next slide here to continue learning a little bit about what our team was and what we're set up to do. So again, we were established back in 2015 as a virtual lab where procurement teams within DHS could come and test new processes or techniques to add value to their procurement, where teams also have the top cover of the DHS Chief Procurement Officer because we sit in the headquarters office. Now, the PIL coaches like myself, we work with procurement teams, and this is 3 members of the team. We have your contracting lead, we have your program lead, and attorney lead. So we work with each of them on a bi-weekly basis. So just 15 minutes every 2 weeks, all the way from market research that we were just talking about here a little bit ago, all the way through contract award. And we call them sprint chats where we do them. We're going to learn about that in just a little bit here. And we act as consultants or coaches all the way through the procurement process on teams that are trying to use innovative techniques to streamline their procurements. And this is a focus on reshaping the culture, right? And there's 4 areas that we're really focusing in on here. The reason why we encourage teams to use procurement innovation techniques, that's right at the bottom here, is to lower entry barriers for non-traditional contractors, shorten that time to award, which I'm sure a lot of you cores out there are very much interested in. Encouraging competition. That's right. We want to encourage competition. We don't want less, you want more. The bigger the pool, the more likely you are to actually get what you need from who you need. And also the biggest thing it's all these things are going to do is increase the likelihood of successful outcomes. So again, we're working with teams on a voluntary basis all the way through contract award. Then after the award is complete, but you can see here that testing, where teams are testing procurements. And then after they're complete, we share the results, whether they're good or bad, with the broader acquisition community in sessions just like this. We do it internally with DHS with our PIL webinars. We also have on our YouTube channel some of those webinars, and also our PILcast series, which are 10 minutes or less episodes on procurement innovation techniques. With the goal is to create a learning culture with all the government procurement on how other teams are doing things, so you all can see examples, see how teams are innovating to improve practices. So let's go to the next slide here. And let's look at some results, okay? Now, procurement innovation, it's always been a grassroots effort. So it's always been voluntary. We found that procurement innovation cannot be forced. It has to be something that people are willing to try to do on their own. Because as we know, and change is hard. And when you're trying to do something different, it's not easy. Yeah, I could definitely do that. I will grab that. I have the link actually right here and can share it with everyone right in the chat. Boom. There we go. There's the link in the chat to our PIL YouTube channel if you like to access any videos that we have and all the content that we have, webinars and PILcast episodes. So again, this is a
David,
graph.
thanks so much. Also, there
Yeah.
was a question earlier about how can we contact PIL, and I think you have that in your slides later.
Yep, and I'll drop it right in the chat here, pil@hq.dhs.gov. There we go. And how do you shorten time to award? Any specific things that you can share? Yes, actually, Shonda, Shonda, I think that's how you say that. We actually will go over an example of a team that did just that at FEMA, so you can see what they did and some of the techniques they use. So we have an example coming right up for you. Not a problem at all. I'm assuming these slides will probably go out, Kim. Is that correct?
That's correct. They've already been sent out, but I'll send them out again after the seminar, along with the link for the recording.
All right, sounds great. All right, so again, this is a grassroots effort across the federal government. So it's not just not being done by force by leadership at all. It's something that people have to be willing to do voluntarily because change is difficult. But as you can see here, here's some results, right? Our team, we've coached 203 procurement projects, and this is recent as well. This captures all the awards. We're coaching at least like 30 to 40 teams right now. 108 PIL boot camps. This is our trainings that we do on procurement innovation techniques within DHS. Almost 3,000 DigiBat holders, and that's a micro training credential for procurement innovation, where we teach people as people learn different concepts and try techniques, they can qualify for this. So that's internal DHS. They can get Digi badges to recognize what they've done. And the biggest thing is, though, we're not a tiger team. So when it comes to coaching procurement teams, all these 203 that we've done through procurement initiation to award, is that we're not taking over the procurement. The teams are still in the driver's seat. We're just consultants, subject matter experts. We provide resources to teams so they're not alone in this process. And as you can see here, if you can click next here, we actually do have an animation. So again, we're not a tiger team. We don't take it over. We're just coaches along the ride with you as you're doing it and provide feedback and advice as you go along. So let's go to the next slide here. I want to share some resources with you. Now, this is the back cover of our PIL yearbook from this last year, 2023. And I know this is maybe not the easiest to read, but these are just some innovation labs that are out there over the past year. We have in the top left corner your Treasury IRS Innovation Contracting Lab, the Department of Commerce Lab, NRC I Squared, HHS, for any of you HHS people here today. We also have the VA, the SAIL, in addition to the PIL, EPA, NASA, lots of them. If we can click on the next here, we have an animation. Each CFO Act agency has an acquisition innovation advocate. So if you're out here and part of any of these organizations or any ones working with the FAR at all, then you have an acquisition innovation advocate. Right here on the page itself, these are links to get to those, and where you can access the acquisition gateway, where you can find out who your acquisition innovation advocate is. And also we have a highlight here, the PIL Bootcamp Workbook. So if you want to hear stories about what other teams are doing to streamline their procurement processes, you can read them right there as well and learn about what other teams are doing. So let's click the next slide here. We have another animation. There we go. And the next slide. And we have a poll question, everybody. I think we're going to allow a quick moment for this poll. Have you interacted with an innovation lab at your agency? So while you all are answering this question, so go ahead and answer it. We're going to go to the next slide. And that way you all can answer this, and we'll come back to this in just a few slides and share the answer. Now, we're talking about stories before. What have people done? What innovation techniques are people doing? Well, this is a story about a team at FEMA, and they had one where they were actually looking for a requirement to get program support and workforce development. And they had a requirement which had an immediate need. They didn't want to have a lapse in service at all. And they were getting a late PR package. So I know we're just talking about PR packages before. Have any of you been in this circumstance where you all have maybe submitted things a little bit late to your procurement team and are kind of rushing because you need an award done as soon as possible? Let's see in the chat. Have any of you been in that circumstance before? Oh, that's great to hear, Brunson. All right, we got some people saying yes here. Of course. All right. Well, this team faced that circumstance. So let's go to the next slide. Let's see a little bit about this procurement. A little too late often. And that happens. And that's okay, right? We'll work with you where you are. In procurement, I'm an 1102. I've had a warrant before coming to the pill, and so I understand that happens. There we go, 7 p.m. That is a close one. All right, not a problem at all, helpful. All right, so this team, let's see what they did here. So they had a FAR 8.4 requirement, and this is about $38 million, and they were looking to establish a BPA. Again, they had a short time that this needed to be awarded. Now, on the left side here, we can see they had a lot of innovation techniques that they had to use. And you can see in that top thing, they used an advisory downselect. I'm not going to get in that detail, but you see they had 14 vendors submit a quote on this requirement, and that was in the first phase of the procurement. And they had a 2-phase procurement. In the second phase, they just had 3 vendors using an advisory downselect. And that was a 100% success rate as well. Kim, got your question? We are free of service for all the federal government. Within DHS, we provide the services free. External, we actually get money from OMB each year to provide support externally. Our only request is that you have someone that might want to act as a procurement innovation coach internally. So we work externally on a coach-to-coach model, where someone that's interested in coaching teams to be procurement innovation on procurement innovation techniques, we will coach them on how to coach teams in the future. That way, your organization can keep learning and can grow that procurement innovation coaching internally as well, and we'll help them with that. All right. So we went 14 quotes down to 3 using advisory down select. And this was a $38 million requirement. Now, they got the PR submitted in May, and an award needed to be completed by August. So very short amount of time that they need to get this done. Now, the contracting officer knew that she had to do things differently this time around to help the acquisition team avoid a lapse in service or a bridge contract. Now, on this slide here, again, you can see all the techniques they use. We're going to focus on the 3 bolded ones there: involving end users or jam sessions, mission-focused evaluation criteria, and also streamlined evaluation documentation. Now, on the right side here, on the right side over there, you can see timeline. Look at this. It took them only 38 days from planning to solicitation release to actually go ahead and get this thing out, right? Only 38 days. And they had 61 days from issuance of the solicitation to award. So just over 2 months by 1 day. And so they awarded it in August 23rd, 2023, just last year. And so they got it done on time, right when they needed. There was a protest that was dismissed, but that was a dismissed for the protest end. And it was more just on how they did their evaluation, which everything ended up being fine in the eyes of GAO. So let's go to the next slide here. And let's learn a little bit about these jam sessions, or sorry, their challenges, okay? And Ken, yes, let's go over the poll results, Ken. Can you share everyone, have you consulted with your innovation lab at your agency or interact with the innovation lab at your agency? Wow, 365 or 88% of you said no. And again, not everyone has a lab, and each lab is doing different things. So this is still a relatively new concept. Even though we were established back in 2015, a lot of the labs and agencies are still growing. So you have an AIA that can help you, but you don't always necessarily have a lab itself. Some organizations do, but they're all being built out with the support and help that can be provided. All right, so back to this one, the challenges, right? They had only 3 months to get this done. They did not want to issue a bridge contract, and the market research documentation, the IGCE, market research report, evaluation criteria, none of these were complete. So they had to get this done pretty quickly. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so let's start with what they did. How did they get all this market research done in just 38 days? How did they get the report done? How did they get the evaluation criteria, the solicitation set up? Well, they had what we called jam sessions. And this isn't actually going through and everyone getting out bread and, getting their jelly and putting it on the bread. I'm hungry right now, and I would love a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but that's not what they did. These are joint application modeling sessions. And so this is taken from agile technology development, and where they actually go ahead and jam things out, where they bring all the decision makers, all of the stakeholders together to create and finalize some things like evaluation documentation, like your market research reports, like your IGCEs, all these things the team did, they use jam sessions for. Now, who was in the room for these jam sessions? These are the decision makers, all right? And I see some questions. We'll come back to those in just a second, okay? Thank you very much, Mary. Really appreciate it. All right. Who was in the room? The CO, the CS, the attorney, PM cores, end users, advisors, program lead evaluators. What we find that takes the longest when actually working on procurements is the back and forth emails when working on a document, right? That's right. There are air guitars when doing jam sessions. They're optional though. So all these people should be in the room. Now, Kim, see your question. I see the question from Chris. What is a bridge contract? Now, bridge contract is a standalone contract that's put in place to get you from the current requirement to the next one. And so sometimes a lot of times are issued just on like a sole source basis saying, we need to get something done short term, 6 months, but this is a short-term contract done to prevent a lapse in service. That's what a bridge contract is. So it's the bridge to get you from the current one to the next one. So lots of paperwork that a lot of teams don't want to have to do. And it prevents you from getting actually someone on the ground to get the mission done immediately. All right, so all of these people are in the room. All these people are making a decision together. So for all of you out there, you all can do this on your own right now. Have jam sessions. Instead of sending emails back and forth, recommend you all get together and work on the actual documentation together. And by the end of your jam session, and these are usually an hour to hour and a half long, you finish and finalize the document. So how do they do this? One, you have a facilitator. The facilitator guides the session. You want to appoint a scribe, and that's what this team did, and you stick to the topic for that section. So at the beginning of the actual meeting, you say, what are our objectives for this meeting? What do we want to get as the outcomes? And then you focus on the outcomes to make sure you hit those so you're all working together. So at the end of the session itself, you should meet your objectives, which is to have a finalized market research report or have a finalized evaluation criteria. That's what you should do, okay? You work together with it, and that way you don't have to send an email to someone to approve it afterwards. They're all right there in the room. You get everyone's feedback, and then you're done. Check, done. Move on to the next one. Now, the facilitator will prompt the discussion. So you do need someone in charge. And this is what we do as coaches. We coach teams. We facilitate sessions. We also work with people in their facilitation skills. The GSA Civilian Services Acquisition Workshop team, they are offering free facilitation classes across the government. So it's something that's available for people out there to learn how to facilitate. It's a very big skill, but you have to have a facilitator, and they prompt all these things. Now, what happened to this team? So afterwards, what they do, at the end of the sessions, they were able to create their evaluation criteria, which they added to the solicitation. They received all the approvals they needed. And then at the end of the last session, they actually went ahead and posted their draft solicitation while they're getting the internal approvals, which they normally have to go through anyways. So let's go to the next slide here and look at the timeline. So you can see how this worked for everyone. How did they get this done so quickly? So as you see, the blue stars on the left, these indicate jam sessions. Then you have that kind of orange star, maybe it's burnt a little bit. That's a project start date. That's when they got the actual PR in the system, all right? And then the star is when the final RFQ was released. So they got that PR back there in May 2023, as you see there for that first star. And you can see they held 3 jam sessions. 2 of these jam sessions were 90 minutes long, and one of them was just 1 hour, 60 minutes. Again, at the end of the last jam session there at the beginning of June, they posted their draft solicitation out for everyone to see, even though this is a FAR 8.4 requirement. And then while they got their approvals, they got feedback from vendors on the draft solicitation. And then when they used that feedback, incorporated in the solicitation itself, which just kept them from having to do amendments when the solicitation got out there. Again, it saved them time. Got all their approvals, made changes before the solicitation went out, then posted the final RFQ. They did all of this once they got the RFQ out, and just 61 days after this, they got this awarded on time. So let's go to the next slide here and look at how they do this. How do they make this so efficient on the solicitation side? Well, they use something we called mission-focused evaluation criteria to do these sessions. So as part of the jam sessions, the FEMA team focused on creating the mission-focused evaluation criteria. What is this, you ask? Now, drop in the chat, how many of you have seen or used a technical approach where each offer needs to respond to how it will accomplish all of the tasks in the statement of work or PWS? Let me know in the chat. Is this something that you all have done before? Tell me how you're going to complete everything as part of this. How are you going to do all the tasks? We got some yeses here. All right, couple no's. It's a mixed crowd, all right? You're a mixed crowd. It looks like you got some yeses and no's. All right. Now, often when we ask teams for areas to be addressed, we end up with responses that are somewhat along the lines of, yes, I can do all these things. And that's hard to differentiate one vendor from another. Now, the first step of what you do here is you get the team to list out the mission-focused criteria. Think about what all the pain points might be, what the pieces of the requirement that are the most complex or nuanced, and what areas allow for innovation that will set offerers apart. So these are the things you want to focus in on. Here's a real life example, okay? So do any of you, let's see in the chat, do any of you have kids at all? Do any of you have kids? And hopefully, if you have kids, maybe you have a car. So I have two kids, two boys, both playing baseball. They're young as well. And so last weekend, for instance, they got mud everywhere. It was wet. There was mud. The car was so dirty. The carpets are filthy. And so that's a pain, right? So imagine if I wanted to hire a detailer, someone to detail my car, all right? And I want them to wash it as well. I want it washed. I want it detailed inside and out. Now, I'm mostly concerned with getting all the dirt and mud out of the carpets, right? Because this thing is really caked, really dirty. And so I'm not necessarily worried about how they can wash the car itself, because I feel like if they can actually get all the dirt and mud out of the carpets, they can probably wash the car okay. So what I do is I want to focus my evaluation criteria for this. When I'm asking the vendors for, teach me or tell me, what is your process for getting dirt and mud out of these really mud-filled carpets? And I want to know, can you do it? Now, maybe though, I'm also worried about the environmental impact of the soap that they're using and the different things that they're using as well. So in my solicitation, I would ask for these things. I wouldn't ask somebody to say, I need car detailing services, but I just want to focus on these particular questions. Tell me how you do this and what's your environmental impact as well. And that's what I'm focusing in on. And that's the same thing for mission-focused evaluation criteria. Focus on your mission. Focus on what it is that's most important to you that really differentiate the vendors. Don't ask people about everything. All right. So then here we go to a next step. So let's click the next here. There we go. And so we do this by factor. If you have multiple factors or multiple tasks in there, you can have these same kind of questions for each of the tasks. You can focus in on just a few of them if you want to, because if you know one that could do one better or one really well, they can probably do the rest. And it's a way just to really streamline the process itself. We actually have a video on this about how to do this as well. And so I'm going to drop it here in the chat. This is a YouTube video Pillcast episode, actually, that you can watch to learn more about creating mission-focused evaluation criteria. And actually, this is the story from this FEMA team and how they created their own mission-focused evaluation criteria and how they did it for this particular requirement. So again, it covers everything in there. I highly recommend watching it. It really shed some light on it, but jam sessions, mission-focused evaluation criteria will get you the things you need quicker. We're going to do a quick, one quick exercise here. I had two planned. We're just going to do one, just to practice this out about doing a jam session and outlining requirements, just to see how this works. So here on this page, we can see that this is an innovation exercise for jam sessions to develop the requirements. And actually, Kim, are you out there?
I am.
People have heard a lot from me. Are you okay with reading this slide for me, for everyone, just all the way down to the task itself?
I'm happy to do that. I also wanted to let folks know, due to our technical issues, we are going to go a little bit late. And I'm sure that some of you can't stay past, oh, sorry, I see my video's off. I know that some folks probably can't stay past 1 o'clock, but don't worry, because this will be recorded. So you'll all be able to access the slides afterwards, but I just wanted to give you all a heads up that we will be going a little bit later to finish off these slides. So I am happy to read off the beginning. So in this exercise, you will outline requirements for an ice cream parlor. This ice cream parlor must include all aspects required, including staff, flavors, toppings, and menu design. The IGCE for this effort is 1.05 million per year, with a base period and 4 option periods of 12 months each. This is an open market research. Market research indicates that over 30 companies are likely to respond. Use the techniques we've discussed in addition to your own experiences to guide the conversation. When creating the requirements, focus on meeting the customer needs. And I apologize, the tasks are cut off for me. So if David, if you can read the tasks.
That's perfect. Thank you very much, Kim. So task here, hold a short jam session to outline the requirements. All right, everyone. So you all are our team here. You're our subject matter experts, and we need your help, right? We need your help to outline these requirements, and it must include all aspects required, including the staff, flavors, toppings, and menu design. So what are some things that you all would want to see in this requirement to make sure that they're hit on while you're developing your PWS? Let's see. Let's see what you have. What do you all think? Some key personnel, maybe. I mean, maybe you want a PM in there, but we don't necessarily advise people to ask for the key personnel itself. What about the menu design or flavors? How many flavors did you want? Flavor options, yeah, how many? Staffing, I saw that. How much space? Yep, that's good. 22 flavors, I like that. Allergies, that is a great idea. Staffing, funding, deliverables, these are all great things. You all are getting it. So all of these things, this is how we would do a jam session, okay? We'd focus on the individual requirements itself, start from the beginning, start to the end. We have a lot of companies too as part of it. So maybe if you're gonna have 30 vendors doing this, ooh, if any of you have used procurement innovation techniques, what's a way to streamline this? Would you just put it out there and just let all 30 vendors provide back? A lot of food allergies? No, I saw a no, that's right. That's right. We recommend using a thing called a down select. And we recommend an advisory down select where you advise vendors to proceed or not to proceed at the next phase. This is a great way to split the procurement up into two separate processes where you all can actually go ahead and try to reduce the number of people in that pool, where you start with a light lift in phase one, then go to a more complex lift in that second phase with a smaller group of vendors. That way you can make sure that it's a little bit easier on yourself in the procurement process. Vendors love a down select as well because it really allows them to show can they do it or not, and they can focus their bid and proposal dollars elsewhere if they're not a viable competitor. And so that's big to use that. Accommodations, I see lots of people, you're still rolling these in. These are awesome. Great job, everyone. Specials unique per month, that's great. All of these things are awesome, you guys. And that's what we do. So this is how we do a jam session. We do it just like this. We talk about the ideas, then we converge it. We do a converge at the end. So you get brainstorm the ideas out, then you work on focusing in on those, and then you actually bring people together, converge them into one document where that scribe is actually taking the notes. And you set these, like I said, about an hour to hour and a half each, and then you're done. And so we'll skip over here, Kim. We'll skip over the next exercise.
And David, I just wanted to say, one person said, what is the down select in this situation?
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. So a down select is basically you're splitting the procurement process in two parts. So we call them a phased procurement approach. And you have two types of down selects. You have an advisory down select where you advise someone to either proceed or not to proceed to the next phase, where they get to then choose whether they're going to actually proceed or not. And they can take the advice or not take the advice. We found it's actually a little over 90% success rate when you, as the government, advise a vendor not to go to the next phase, that they will take your advice and opt out. All right. The other type of down select we call is a firm down select, where you're kicking someone out. Now, the downside of a firm down select is that then vendors can ask for a debriefing. They can potentially protest as well because they're being kicked out. Where their advisory down select, you cannot. Not limiting, Peter. It's a way of getting down from a bigger pool to a smaller pool. And so you're not limiting the competition. You actually want a lot of people in there. That way in phase one, it's going to be light, maybe like 5 pages. We've seen 5 pages as a prior experience, and then 5 pages of pictures, even 10 pages total. Or maybe you evaluate like, 7, 10 vendors. We've seen up to 100 vendors in the first phase. And then you go to a smaller subset of vendors where you ask a little bit more difficult information, like an oral presentation. What's their technical approach? What's their management approach? Give us any staffing plans that you have. So all those things can be done in a second phase rather than just doing one, what we call a single phase procurement, where you put it all out there, ask for all vendors to submit back, and then you have to evaluate loads of paperwork and lots of massive information from a big vendor pool. That slows down the process, and it costs a lot of money to vendors, which you all should be very much aware of as well, how much that can cost vendors. We have a video on that on our Pillcast channel, so you can check that out. All right, so let's go now to, we're going to skip the next session. So skip the next innovative technique because I know we have time on here. And so let's go to CSAW, Civilian Services Acquisition Workshops. Now, this is something that GSA has what they call a CSAW team, and which is help walking through people through the performance-based acquisition process. And there's a 7-step PBA process, which the GSA team does formally. Again, they provide support for free. You can request support if you need help on building out your performance work statement. That's what the performance-based acquisition workshops are for. They go through the tools and resources and different techniques you can use. They teach you what performance-based acquisitions are, and they make it a collaborative effort where they bring everyone together, just like the jam sessions we talked about, where you can all make a decision as a team and build the requirements as a team. Now, their process is to do it in about 1 week, all right? So they usually go from start to finish, Monday through Friday. They'll finish your acquisition from the beginning. They'll start it and finish it where you have something to work with where you can go back on your own and keep on building it. Now, so you can find out more about CSAWs, and you have a video there on the bottom. We also have a link to the GSA CSAW workshop as well, and you can find out more information about CSAWs itself. Now, at DHS, we've done these as pill acquisition workshops, and we call them PAWS, where you can actually go ahead and we walk teams through how to do these as well, just where they need the support. Let's go to the next slide here and close things out. So if you want a training, this is a takeaway for you all, Procurement Innovation Matrix. These are all the different procurement innovation techniques that we teach and where they could be used in the FAR. So you can see a lot of yeses, a lot of opportunity for innovation. Let's go to the next slide. And we have training that's being offered this spring, our PIL Bootcamp. PIL Bootcamp, the next couple classes where we teach all 19 innovative techniques in both classes. And if you go to the next slide here, we actually have a link to all those classes too. For all of you that need training, it's available. We have a class just as early as next week. The deadline is next Monday. And so if you want to if you need credits, I know the April 30th deadline is coming up. These are all free classes at FAI, our PIL Bootcamp. If you want to go to the next level, once you take PIL Bootcamp, you can take PIL Bootcamp the next level. And if you want to coach teams, you can take PIL Coaching Clinic, where we'll teach you how to coach teams on using procurement innovation techniques. And the next slide here. Last slide, if you need any resources, reach out to our PIL team. My email address is here as well. And the PTAI, Periodic Table of Acquisition Innovations, is a resource for all of you on gsa.gov, where you can look for samples to see how other teams have done things, because you're not in this alone. Thank you very much for your time. I hope all of you have a great day, and I'll send it back to Kim.
Thank you, David. I had a question for you. Someone said, how often are the boot camps offered?
Right now we're offering 2 this springtime. We'll offer another 2 in the fall. So every fall and spring, we offer about 2 classes. Sometimes we add a 3rd in there too.
And one other quick question, why is this a 2-step process?
A 2-step process is a down select, and that's to reduce the amount of information that you have to review as technical evaluators to help streamline the process, to make it smoother. It also provides the vendor the ability to get feedback earlier in the process, which can help save them bid and proposal cost dollars so they can spend that money elsewhere where they could potentially get an award.
And last question is, so you mentioned facilitator training, if you could share where you can find information about the facilitator training, and also how to find a facilitator, so we can share that information with everyone. We offer facilitation when it comes to procurement innovation facilitation and like streamlining procurement processes. If you need that, that works. GSA CSAW team as well. Click that link in the email, look at GSA CSAW. You'll find their email address out there. Jonathan Evans at gsa.gov. I think that's the email address. He is the program manager over there, and he's always happy to help and answer questions too. Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Happy to help. Bye, everyone.
Okay, moving on. Thank you. Moving on to the next session. So, Christine, keying it up for you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be here. I know we are running a little short on time, so I'll try to keep this short and sweet. If you can go to the next slide. So I'm from the Federal Acquisition Institute, and so as our panelists have shared with you, acquisition and contracting is a team sport. FAI supports OFPP, and our strategic goal is to position the acquisition workforce for success. So FAI fosters a lifelong learning model for our acquisition workforce personnel, which includes program managers, contracting officer representatives, contracting officers, and then, as we talked about, as you heard today, there's lots of people involved in that. We have lots of training. So across the federal acquisition, there's about 150,000 professionals that are executing critical and complex missions, serving as the stewards over taxpayer money and managing these risks that are involved in our mission and in our contracts. So that's what FAI's goals are. If you can go to the next slide. Most of what I'm going to talk about is really sharing with you some resources so that you can kind of help your team get information and resources and find out more. And these will all lead you to better places. All of this information is on fai.gov, which I posted in the chat. So the Office of Federal Procurement Policy established 3 certification programs. You may have heard these acronyms. FACC is for contracting, FACPPM is for program project management, and then there's a core contracting officer representative certification. These certifications are actually designed to establish consistencies and standards across the civilian and workforce, and they're recognized by all agencies. So if I'm certified in contracting with the VA and I go to work for NASA, I'm certified in contracting, and I've got a foundational knowledge of information. And so that's how the workforce can be, the talent can move between agencies, and we're not retraining people, and they're recognized by that. OSSPI does have guidance out there regarding who can hold a warrant and if they need to be FACC certified, and also guidance on what a contracting officer representative, as well as agencies, have provided standards and practice on what they what might be required for their program managers or project managers or their contracting officer representatives. Next slide. So FAI.gov is available to you for resources. One of the things I wanted to point out is Christina Harada is the senior advisor for the Office of Federal Procurement, and she came out recently with a Better Contracting Initiative video. If you go to FAI.gov, I put Christina's video picture on there. You can watch that video. It's a great video that kind of talks about the challenges and the initiatives from a federal procurement standpoint. And there also is a great list of resources. So I didn't include all of the lists of resources. It's in the link in the document, but if you forget it, fai.gov, Google it, and you'll see Christina's picture, and right below that is a link that has all of the list of a multitude of resources for people.
Christine, there is a question in the chat. I just wanted to bring it up. So someone asked, are the core certifications on FAI the same as the core certifications from DAU? And that is something that was talked about during the February seminar. And so for more information on that, you can also go to the YouTube recording for that PPM seminar that was held in February. But I don't know if you want to address the difference between the DAU certification and FAI.
Yeah, so there is a difference for core certification. So DAU has specific training that they require for DAU for cores, but they don't have like a formal certification program. On the federal side, we've established courseware for level 1, 2, and 3 cores. Level 1 requires minimal training and an 8-hour continuous learning, and level 2 and 3 have additional training and experience requirements, and those require 40 hours of continuous learning. So the federal certification is different, but it does have some reciprocity agreements that if you've taken DAU training, that can account, and that can count as a fulfillment of some of the training. So it's not that they can't be mobile, they're just different. So great question though, thank you. So I think I was at the list of resources. There's a multitude of resources. I just wanted to point out just a few. that can help you out here. If you could go to the next slide. And I think some of these David just mentioned, is that under FAI.gov, you'll see you can go to tools, and you'll see that there's a periodic table of acquisition innovation. That's on the Acquisition Gateway now as well. There's a contracting professional career roadmap. There's a program project management toolkit, and that toolkit is geared to help people through this procurement process, right? It's not always easy. It probably seems like you're learning a foreign language sometimes with some of the acronyms that are, asked, and the paperwork and the systems that are involved. So there's a toolkit there. There's also, if you want to understand how to get a career in contracting, there's an 1102 experience development tool. There's also, there's lots of executive orders and initiatives, and one of them, of course, is Buy America. There's a Buy America and trade agreement decision tool that's out there that helps people kind of break down that, it's a pretty complex requirement regarding supplies and constructions, and how we concentrate and make sure that we're succeeding in buying America and putting that initiative there. And so those tools are available. There's a great media library that has some fun knowledge nuggets, kind of some YouTube videos that you can take in a few minutes. And the Acquisition Gateway is a great place to start if you're program project management and you're starting an acquisition. There you're going to find resources. You're going to find links about GSA schedules. And if there's a GSA schedule that might be able to provide you that advanced start on an acquisition. As David gave an example, they used to schedule to do the BPA. And so that's a great place to start. You don't have to start from scratch. There's already maybe a contracting vehicle that you can leverage that will reduce your time. So the Acquisition Gateway has policies, but also tools and resources available. So you're not in it alone. There's lots of resources. You can reach out to FAI.gov, Acquisition Gateway, check out the video on better contracting initiatives. I think those are all kind of good bookmarks to have to kind of get you started and moving in the right direction.
Christine, I just wanted to ask you a question from the chat. Are there any resources or process maps for IDIQs? I know folks had asked earlier about whether or not there are templates to use for SOWs. So if you could respond to that, because I think that's relevant to this page. Thanks so much.
Yeah, so Acquisition Gateway is going to be where you want to go for that. Your agency probably also has some templates, but Acquisition Gateway has some resources like a marketing tool. They'll also have process maps on the GSA schedule, and those are IDIQ vehicles that you can leverage. So those are definitely things that that will be provided there. And don't be afraid to reach out to your contracting officer and ask them, or contracting office, and say, hey, I need some. Can you share with me some of your, like, an overview of your process map or resources that you have? Call your contracting officer early and often. Thanks, David. He put the link down for Acquisition Gateway. It's in the slides, but there's a direct link to. There's a newsletter. If you're not enrolled in the newsletter, you can go to FAI.gov and scroll down to the bottom of the page and look for a way to subscribe to the newsletter. You check out the Acquisition Gateway we just talked about, and looking at the periodic table of innovation. So.
Wonderful. Next slide. I just wanted to do a quick summary here. So acquisition is a critical function of the federal government with $759 billion in spending in 2023. Secondly, acquisition is a team sport. The earlier you reach out to your contracting office, the better outcome you will have. Your contracting officer is a trusted colleague. And lastly, you've heard from all these speakers today, there are lots of resources to help you. So hopefully the seminar has helped you to find this information. And if you could just go to the next slide. Any questions? I know we just have a couple minutes left. If you want to put any questions in the chat. I know there's one here that says, is it hard to switch from being a grants professional into being a core, or can you do both easily? Does anyone want to take that, Christine?
Sure. It is different knowledge. And so, so if you are a grants professional, you probably have taken specific classes to become a core. There are specific certification courses that you would need to take. You can find that information on fai.gov. The first course is about FCR 110, and that's a core level 1, and that can be taken relatively easy. To be a core level 2, you have to have a year of experience of being a core. So hopefully that answers your question. More information can be found at the fai.gov. Look under certification Fact C core.
Thank you all so much. And please do check out the seminar that we held in February as well on program and project management, because that has a lot of information that will be useful to you as well. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate your attendance and your engagement. And a huge thanks to all the speakers and to GSA for their help with the technical difficulties as well with the seminar. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day, everyone.